Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Minions of the Zoo Night Stream, Thursday edition. I'm your host, Prospero. Minions joining me this evening are the Harry Channel.
Good evening.
Jenna.
Hello.
Sanguine.
Good evening, all.
And Skep will be back in a moment since he's wrestling the dogs, who, of course, decided the minute we were going live that they wanted to be on TV too. How are you doing this evening, Jenna? It's good to hear your voice.
I'm doing a lot better today. The last few days have been wicked hard and not fun, but for the most part, as of this moment, the pain is not noticeable.
That's awesome. And that makes me extremely happy. Sanguine, how are you doing?
I'm doing grand, and I finally got back word that my air conditioner just came in, so I should finally, after 4 months or so, have a primary air conditioner again.
Well, that's outstanding.
Yep, just after the main body of a heat wave.
Yeah, well, at least it's before the, oh dear God, did hell spill into our realm portion of July.
Yep.
So that's good. That's good to hear. Mr. Harry, my engineer for the evening, and God bless you for it. How are you this evening?
Oh, I'm doing okay. How's my sound?
Your sound is great.
In my quest to perpetually make my sound less shitty. It's been actually a pretty interesting day. There's as a work thing, this one guy did a really good, who was sort of a predecessor of mine for this one group, and I've just sort of absorbed all of his work when he left. No increase in hours or anything, just absorbed all of his work. He did really good work, but he only did 95% of it. He seems to have always left that last 5% undone. It's been quite the adventure cleaning up all of his crap. I don't, because I am actually in awe of some of the things he did. He did a really great job up until the point where he just stopped doing his job and moved on to the next thing that interested him.
Nice.
So everything's
I've never quite seen a case this bad, honestly.
So everything's lovely up to a point, and then it just kind of falls into tatters. And then the next thing was lovely up to a point and falls into tatters.
So it's the Mad Inventor's Workshop that you go in, and it's just full of almost completed projects?
Yeah, it's like, here, you want to make a machine for an engineer to use to have as their little home system. You just make it from this template. Push a button, push a thing, bada bing, bada boom. They've got a new virtual machine that's all their own. Unfortunately, half of the configuration is completely out of date, but it's fine. At least they got their new system. But the funny thing was that he didn't, rather than change the configuration on all the systems because a bunch of servers had changed, he just aliased a couple things, which did about a 2/3 patch. And then if those two things failed, it just stopped working in a way that was completely opaque. So people were like, I don't understand what's going on. Harry, can you save me? Yeah, sure. That was basically my day. I'm feeling a little smug, I have to say. It's kind of at the, I don't know if smug's the right thing. It's just laughing at other people's misfortune. Well, smug is the wrong word. I'm just kind of at the point where it's just so tragic I can't kind of help but laugh at it. It's funny to me, and it's weird to see somebody who's so talented and does such good work just have this fatal flaw of not doing the last 5%. Yeah, it's just bizarre. I guess this is the same sense of humor that makes people in the bomb shelters during the air raids get through the day. You know, at a certain point, all you can do is laugh at how tragic it all is.
Sort of a gallows humor.
Very much a gallows humor. So anyway, sorry for going long. That was my day.
But at least it sounds productive. I know when Cree went to work for the company he retired from, he was taking over a position that had been held by someone that he had worked with before. which gave him a leg up because he knew some of the guy's weaknesses. But he got in and started looking at some of the guy's work, and he said he could write good code. He just could never end it, and had just stuff wouldn't run properly because he'd just kind of peter.
Overbuilt it, or
No, he'd peter out, or he'd
or
he'd create a almost like a fatal feedback by not ending the programming properly, so that it would hang.
Definitely want to tell it to end gracefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that, but he said it did actually at least give him a leg up, because he said he knew that the guy had this problem. So he said, when I had to troubleshoot a program of his, I could start from the bottom and work back toward the top, because he said usually it was in that last third where he'd foul it
Screw
up.
the pooch.
Yeah. A number of programs that I've written in the past end with a couple lines that basically say a comment that says, "You should never get here, but just in case, exit."
Yes.
Yeah. I have left. I know exactly what you did and why you did that. I have done that exact same thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Just in case, we're gonna return out of this routine. Exit,
In
cancel,
theory,
return.
this code should never execute.
Right, exactly. But if it does, get out.
Yeah. You're done. Bye-bye. Skep, how is your day?
Oh, it's been fine. I'm in charge of all watering activities for the next little while here, and it's a lot to go into. I'll talk with you guys about it offline. But at any rate, my watering responsibilities have increased dramatically. I didn't realize how much time she spent out there watering this stuff. God, it's like an hour and a half of watering.
I have 2 words for you, and
What?
it's not plastics, boy. It's drip lines.
We have them. They're not good enough for my wife.
Okay.
The plants need to have that direct human attention,
Oh,
according
okay.
to Brenda. And you have to go and stay with the plants. If you don't spend time with the plants, they will not grow good fruit for you.
Oh,
Pull their
okay.
leaves as they sprout another shoot. And
And I have to tell you, I'm sitting on a pile of inductive proof.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there is the going out and singing to them is nice, and
She's kind of like that. She just,
holistic plant raising.
she really believes that the vibrations from your voice, she really truly does believe this.
Mhm.
Talking to plants, playing the music. She said if I had, because she read this on the internet,
Mhm.
and it's how you know it.
There have been
Quality.
some research into plants' response to harmonics and things like that. So it's not entirely.
Oh, there was one in particular actually, and she read that one.
Oh,
and
dear.
And it really showed some fairly. And she's this woman was a registered nurse. I mean, she's pretty sharp in the uptake.
Mhm.
She has she knows when something is statistically valid, and when she saw that was really truly statistically significant, she just said that just makes all kinds of intuitive sense to me, and went with it. So now there's emotional investment, and so I have to make a big show of being out there with my little plant friends.
Well, sing
Tock.
them some Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
I
They'll
sing
appreciate-
them Tom Lehrer.
Oh, that's even better. I got it from Agnes as you're plucking tomato bugs off the vines.
Do you have to wear a little outfit for this?
Lederhosen. She makes him wear lederhosen.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Go yodel to the plants, sweetheart. All right.
Don't suggest that, George. Jeez.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. Later.
Just try it, Frank. I can just hear it.
I'm not wearing lederhosen.
Exactly.
Midlothian man burns backyard to the cinders. I snapped. Oh,
you can push a man too far. But anyway, so yeah, she's out of the picture for a few days on a camping trip with grandkids. So I have to run the house pretty much by myself, but with occasional help from my grandson who comes over. So,
Wait, she went camping willingly?
oh yeah, are you kidding? She was a Girl Scout troop leader.
Oh.
This lady is like Camp Orama.
Camping's fun.
I'll still try to like her. My experience Girl Scout troop leaders was not good.
This is a woman who can make a souffle in a cast iron Dutch oven over a campfire, and it'll be perfect.
Prospero, did you get kicked out of Girl Scouts like I got kicked out of Boy Scouts?
I tried.
I doubt that, seriously.
No, I actually had to quit. God. After the end of first year of cadets, I was like, I'm done. Please do not make me go back.
I did Girl Scouts.
When Prospero found out she wasn't a joiner. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jenna.
Yeah.
I was just one of our first camping trips. Raccoons ate all our food.
It was the third time I was sent out in sleet to get firewood when no one else in my patrol was doing it in a February camping trip that I would rather have been, I don't know, performing a proctology exam on one of Satan's imps at that point.
Nice.
Yeah, I just said,
there's a happy thought.
I'm not doing this anymore.
Well,
I am just not doing this anymore. One of our, the lady who was the second in command of our troop was very, very nice. The woman who ran the troop, her daughter was in the troop. She would automatically appoint her daughter a patrol leader, so there wasn't a vote. And she was a bitch. She was
the
just
daughter or the woman or both?
Both were bitches. And it just detestable individual, snarky bitch. And it was the second in command that I came in. I looked at her. I said, that's the third trip out in February, rain and sleet to get firewood. I am not doing that again.
In Massachusetts.
Yes, in Massachusetts.
It's freaking cold in February.
They have bitches in Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they have a lot of bitches in Massachusetts.
And not all of them are female.
Yeah, that's the truth.
But so, well, the farmer has his orders. Jenna's feeling better. Harry's dark sense of humor has prevailed, and he's feeling smug, and Sanguine's getting an air conditioner. So life is pretty good. I had a decent day. Went to the dentist. It was not horrible, which is always a nice thing. My dental hygienist is a nice person.
Was it just routine or what?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The only thing not routine was x-rays, but she's really good at doing those so that the underside of your tongue doesn't get sawed up.
Doesn't get lacerated.
Yeah, I used to hate those bite wing shots. Whenever they do those, I would just think, how many canker sores will I get out of this?
You know, at my dentist, some genius figured out they could round the edges of that and soften the sides. And so I have pain-free x-rays every time I go.
Oh yeah, they'll do horizontals if they can't get good verticals, and the bite stuff they have now is better, and the length of time the damn thing is in your mouth is whole lot less because they've improved their radiology equipment.
So let me ask you this: when you get your teeth cleaned, do they do it with an ultrasonic or do they do it by hand?
They do both. They do hand scaling, and then they do the ultrasonic, which I detest because of that high pitch styrofoam squeak. But
I do too. And here's what happened when I said, "Could you not use that on me?" Do you know what he said? He said,
what?
"Sure, no problem."
Oh yeah, she knows it sucks. She just says, "Please, let me do a quick run."
You see, he said it's just a time saver. I can get the same effect. We'll just take it low and slow, and it takes him about an extra 10 minutes to do my teeth. But he doesn't use that damn squealer thing. Yeah, the thing that makes you just want to jump out of the chair and run around screaming.
Oh yeah, my hygienist was saying, "I am so sorry I don't have any headphones back here," and I'm like, "Look, it doesn't last that long." She's quite quick with it, and also she uses the drill brush to clean my teeth because she knows I don't like that baking soda wash.
Oh yeah.
But it's disgusting.
Really nice,
it's absolutely disgusting because this fine spray of shit is all over you when you're done.
Grit.
And the inside of your mouth just tastes horrible. But your breath is so fresh. For hours. And it actually fouls up my sense of taste. For a little while because there's just so much baking soda in my mouth. No matter how well they wash your mouth out, it's just there. It's so much faster.
It's a lot faster to get it done with the hypersonic thing, but I just don't like that thing, and I've got plenty of time these days. So
I just picture dogs a mile away going, when it goes off, because it's just
makes that high pitched keening sound.
It's even higher pitched than the high speed drill, which I didn't think was possible because that's the second most loathsome thing about dentistry to me. Low speed drills don't bother me at all. High speed ones, oh God. I've got my hands clutched.
Is it the sound or
it's the sound? It's the sound. I've never cared.
The discomfort isn't that bad.
No, because usually I'm numbed up. the not for the cleaning, but it's the sound. It reminds me of that awful squeak that styrofoam can make.
I agree with you completely. That's exactly right.
And magic marker can make a noise like that on cardboard occasionally.
Yes, it can.
And when that happens, a chill runs straight up my spine. I literally shudder. And
unpleasant.
Oh, the sound of a styrofoam cooler wedged between a car seat.
Oh, I hate that too.
And the back seat is, if you ever want to give me something that will make me spill state secrets.
Yeah, just subject you to that for a while.
Oh, yeah, because pain, I think I have a higher tolerance for than that.
Yeah.
That's like anything.
Kind of pain.
Yeah.
I have an answer for you both. Just go teethless.
Well, that would require my losing them. And I prefer not to, thanks. Right now.
Name of the game is Keep Your Teeth, actually. We're trying to keep our teeth.
Yeah.
But anyway, so dental hygiene, just more excitement here on the menu.
Check that box off. Well, it is just it is just a chat show after all, and let's talk about things like that make you think of the Marathon Man.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's just oil of cloves.
God, there's one of those movies. You see it once, and it's like, yeah, okay, good. I don't need to see that again.
Yeah, that was like Nashville for me. When I walked out of there, I just didn't even want to think about that movie ever again.
Yeah, there have been several.
But I was glad I saw it. I was glad I had that experience.
Yeah, there's some movies I was glad of the experience because I knew what a genuinely shit film was.
In the case, I don't want to be down on the side of as hating Nashville. I didn't hate it. I think it was a work of art, but it's like reading a Kafka short story.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, you want to crawl out of your skin by the end.
Yeah. You don't have a lot of faith for human beings.
I've seen several movies like that where the individuals are so loathsome that you're just like, ew.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't know very many people like that in real life.
was, the interesting thing about that movie was that it was shot with a lot of parallels to real life. And some of those loathsome country singers in Nashville were loathsome, even more loathsome than they were portrayed.
You know what movie left me with that feeling was Midnight Cowboy. I've
Oh,
seen
yeah, for sure.
I've seen it, and I never, ever want to see it again.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
And it kind of irritates me that a song like Everybody's Talking
I know, that song is identified with that movie.
is identified with the movie because that's a great song. But yeah,
that was a big break for him too.
For Nielsen, yeah, it was.
It set up Nielsen Schmielsen.
There's a dude on Twitter named Shimon Pimenta.
Yes,
and pretty much
follow him
every afternoon. He will post 2, 3, 4 song clips with name the song and the artist, give the year, and an RIP if the artist is dead. And those are always fascinating. I love it when I catch those.
They send me down rabbit holes because then I have to know everything about them, and somebody will say something interesting about an agent who once represented this guy and Frank Zappa, and then I have to go chase down that story and find out where their cousins' dogs are buried, what pet cemetery.
Oh, he did a Chicago one today, a Chicago one and an Eagles one. So it was kind of like, oh, thank you very much. But at the same time, it was like, oh my God, look how young they look.
Yeah, I know.
And I commented that, and his comment was, well, there are songs from the 70s. And I was like, look, I was there. I know when they were popular.
Mm-hmm.
It's just being reminded that I don't remember anyone looking that young. Mm-hmm. And they were all older than I. And yet now, boy, how did I think they were grown up? just kind of perverse how the passage of time affects one's perspective. But speaking of loathsome things, we've got a little story about the DOJ to talk about tonight. Tommy Tuberville took to the floor of the Senate. I had to think for a minute. Yes, he's Senator Tuberville. Today to address a matter that existed under the Obama administration. It was gotten rid of. The policy was yeeted by the Trump administration. And he's trying to ensure that this never returns again. But it is kind of the depths of, as someone commented on the Forbes YouTube video of this presentation, this isn't the swamp, this is the sewer. Mm-hmm. Because we know that the DOJ during the Obama administration was demonstrably corrupt. We have evidence that the FISA court was lied to obtain warrants.
With numerous instances where you could definitely say, there's evidentiary proof of corruption.
Yes, yeah, and Eric Holder should have been held to rather severe account, much more so than being
should have been disbarred and arrested,
censured by. This is the stuff of Richard Nixon's wet dreams.
Yes, indeed.
In a DOJ,
you're not wrong at all.
And this is just another piece in the fundamental corruption, and this is important because the fundamental corruption of the Obama administration has returned very much to power in DC. Many people inside the White House advising President Biden are retreads from those happy days. You've got the likes of Susan Rice sniffing around and just tons of other people. I mean, it's just kind of makes me sick to think about it because The Obama administration was made up of two groups of people, really earnest teenagers who would do anything. I think of Ben Rhodes that way.
Yeah.
And fundamentally corrupt motherfuckers like Eric Holder and Susan Rice. Loretta Lynch comes to mind. Speaking of that, it's kind of nice to point out that the reporter who broke that story about the Tarmac meeting between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch is dead.
Yep.
At age 45 of suicide.
He had a case of the SADS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just another list of the coincidences that you could chalk up to the knew something about the Clintons crowd.
It's CADS. It's Clinton Affective Disorder Syndrome.
Yeah.
It's strange how all of their friends and associates get really sad because of all the other ones that were getting sad before.
It's a heavy burden to carry.
But the Clintons stay so cheerful.
Well,
they don't have to worry about being suicided.
I think this is a story. Instead of it being a portrait in the attic, like the portrait of Dorian Gray, I actually think to some extent.
You better explain how that portrait works.
Okay, young beautiful man wants to retain his beauty,
youth, and vigor forever.
So enter the Faustian bargain. The portrait is done of him, and it ages in his stead. And while those around him age, he stays beautiful and vigorous.
Ages and takes all wounds.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a kind of pathetic story about ego and
man, are you kidding? I get
fundamental corruption and yeah. I mean, I think, look, we'd all like to maintain youth and vigor, but when you don't learn anything in the process and you just become increasingly more vain and increasingly more concerned about your youth and vigor, without recognizing that your soul is becoming functionally corrupt, and the portrait is revealing that corruption.
Yes.
With the Clintons, I believe their vigor is sustained by the incredible catastrophes that seem to befall anyone that knows anything about their ill-doing.
It is an impressive list of people.
It's a perverse number. I'm
not going to say that there's anything on there that proves wrongdoing, and statistics can be funny.
Yeah.
Statistics. You can get yourself to go to places you shouldn't go to.
Correlation and causation.
Based on statistics. But
just because a woman's on her sixth husband doesn't mean that she's poisoning him.
Just because they're getting progressively richer doesn't mean she's poisoning them.
Yep.
So could it be that the Clintons have just annoyed so many people for so long that we're just noticing the ones that drop dead, and it seems like a large number.
It seems
but it's
like
actually
a lot.
small percentage.
Yeah,
I mean, it's possible that of the people who hate me, that an even larger percentage of them have randomly dropped dead.
Yeah, or randomly suicided. With a power couple like Bill and Hillary Clinton, number one, he was in office for 8 years. That's a very long period of time, and there are a great number of people that move in and out of the orbit of people like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was governor before that. He's pissed off people before being president.
He has been in the public limelight since the late 80s. And because he spoke at the 88 Democratic National Convention. That's when his rising star was affixed in the sky. I remember the address he gave. I listened to it. It was over long, but I recognized his intelligence, saw the charm. And policy-wise, he was not particularly extreme because he was a governor of a state that would not allow for that kind of extremism. And also, I don't think Bill Clinton is that politically extreme. I believe his wife is, if this is possible, is infinitesimally more corrupt than he.
I second
Bill's
that.
correct
Gosh,
about different things.
I don't think it's
That's-
infinitesimal. I think she's a lot more corrupt than he is.
Oh yeah, I didn't infinitesimal. That's not the word I wanted.
Infinitely.
Infinitely.
Infinitely. Okay.
He is a typical poor boy becomes rich boy. Nobody puts any reins on him.
Now I can fuck everyone.
Moral corruption. Well, he was
Love has
raised.
needs.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
raised in a well of moral corruption. So, there's a tragic side to Bill Clinton. I don't.
Because
was
his mama
president.
was a whore.
Well, his upbringing was pretty horrible, and he never overcame. He never overcame it because he married a fucking succubus, and she has used him to achieve her desires, and she would literally shoot him on the street if it thought it could give her more power. I don't think she's ever particularly cared about him or for him. And he was
I
a
don't
very, very needy boy. Maybe early days.
I've
she was
seen pictures where it's pretty obvious that there was some level of affection. She's not that good an actor.
No.
But I mean, she's sort of like an old school corrupt Democrat, but smarter than a lot of them. You know,
Yeah.
you could compare her to like a Feinstein, but she's just way more craven
Corrupt. She's
than Feinstein. She's
Feinstein's
basically
corrupt, but
she's basically a political machine, or the Clintons are. You know, in the tradition of some of the mayoral machines, but on a national scale. And I mean, just the number of people that are pissed off about Bill Clinton's epic sexual history, that's a lot of people.
Yes.
There are a lot of people that hate them for various reasons.
Oh, for
They
good
don't
reason.
care about his sexual history. It's not my
Well,
business.
you don't. Well, you don't, but the partners of the people he hooked up with might. There's a
Well,
lot
yeah.
of collateral damage when you're as big a horn dog as he is.
Yeah, and the Arkansas State Troopers that had to put up with his shenanigans, and I'm sure you could find a fair few people within the Secret Service that wouldn't have cared if oops. They don't treat the help well.
No, but the
No.
Clinton curse thing. On the one hand, there's obviously nothing proving any of this. On the other hand, it sure does seem like an awfully big coincidence.
Oh, and it's so always there's some amazing.
That's what I was saying, Harry.
There's some amazing moments of timing when people are becoming inconvenient. They turn up dead, and that's the problem.
People die. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Do I think they have a hand in most of them? Not at all. I just think that's coincidence because they knew a lot of people. Do I feel that way about Vince Foster? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I will go to my grave believing that the Clintons were intimately involved in Vince Foster's death. At least Hillary was.
We can't even keep Epstein alive in a high security jail with security cameras.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well,
anybody
that
can
sure
be.
was an unfortunate coincidence that
Yeah.
those guards took a break and were gun decking their records that night.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
they're going to spend a few hundred hours picking up trash by the side of the road as part of their plea deal.
I don't blame
it's-
them. To tell you the truth, I I'd plea that one out because I wouldn't want to commit suicide with 2 different caliber bullets to the back of the head.
It's just
Yeah.
if there's enough money or power behind something, anybody, they can get to anybody. That's what the Epstein thing has proven.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's always this factor to consider. There are a group of people that will do anything to please those people on the seats of power, because it will give them a slightly larger slice of what power is left over, give them more position to benefit from that role. So the fact that they may have had willing stooges who may have acted on their own to help them. I took care of that problem for you. Don't you love me now? That's not an uncommon human behavior for attention and stroking. We've gotten off the topic a little bit because we need to go back to this bit of corruption.
Yes.
Tommy Tuberville is about as exciting as watching a plant grow.
Yeah.
When he speaks, I warn you, this is not as entertaining as Mike Lee trolling AOC on the floor of the Senate. But what he says has value. So we're going to play it along, and we'll stop it to make certain comments. And there's certain parts I think we can probably...
We're not going to get a copyright strike for playing the whole thing, are we?
I think if we start, if you don't mind, Harry, we shouldn't.
I'm going to leave it this size. It's a fairly low quality anyway. So in terms of the video, I think we're fine. We just need to start and stop it fairly regularly so we can comment, which we need to do anyway.
Yeah.
But of course, there's no guarantees. Anybody can sue anybody for any reason, and anybody can launch a copyright strike. But we're not making money off the stream anyway, so okay.
I don't think we are going to get any kind of community guideline strike for it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I'm concerned about. We're not talking about I prefer pectin, because God forbid we talk about that.
No.
We're more likely to get a guideline strike for the stuff we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
So just let me know when.
Go ahead. Fire her
Unanimous
up.
consent that Will Taylor, an intern in my office, be granted floor privileges for the remainder of Congress.
Okay, you can speed through a little. Oh,
Many
no, never
important
mind.
roles of the Department of Justice is to represent the United States in civil and criminal trials.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes, the decides that a pretrial monetary settlement for a lawsuit
The
is the best route to
Tubemeister.
take. The DOJ
Yeah, he sounds like a
directs
coach.
the money from the settlement to the victims,
He was, actually.
or that's the way our system
Coach on the Quaaludes, me.
Okay, what he's
During the
laying out,
Obama
one of the things he's laying out here is that there are people who are victims of crimes, organized conspiracies, malfeasance by corporations, that the DOJ goes after these companies for. We saw instances like the savings and loan scandal, things like that. So he's pointing out that the DOJ will, in some ways, almost be representing victims of certain crimes, in particular financial crimes, when they go after large banks or savings and loans or that kind of thing. They're not per se serving as their counsel, but they're representing both the interests of the government and the people who were defrauded, done dirt, whatever. Go ahead, Harry.
administration, the DOJ took a different course. Rather than direct settlement, money to victims, the DOJ pushed the defendants to give money instead to a third-party organization favored by the department.
Yeah, let that sink in what that man just said.
Yeah. What he's saying is, instead of the settlement money from a case that the DOJ they're going after, let's say, Charles Keating at Lincoln
Financial.
Financial, who was the guy that, if any of you have ever seen a clip of an older lady beating the hell out of a guy sitting at the defendant's table with her purse, that was Charles Keating. Keating was a corrupt fuck, and he was stealing a lot of people's money, and the government caught him at it, and they went after him. Of course, he'd managed to lose most of that money, conveniently.
Terrible boating accident.
No, mostly into the pockets of a large number of politicians, I'm afraid.
Yeah, the
Well, about
SNS
the
scandal
same.
was pretty bad. But let me hit play again now that I think
Yes.
we're caught up.
This was a slush fund for groups chosen by the DOJ. What's more, the DOJ would count the dollar amount of any donation as double toward the settlement. Money paid to the victims or the Treasury would only count dollar for dollar.
Wow.
That's fun.
So a little bit of a motivation to give money to these third parties then.
It's an interesting form of money laundering, isn't it?
Yeah, you only pay 50 cents on the dollar if you just give it to these charities. Excuse me, nonprofits. Because let's just remember that nonprofits and charities are not necessarily the same thing.
And nonprofits chosen by the Obama Department of Justice.
Yes, you need a strong foundation.
It wasn't that they were saying, we've worked out a little deal that if you give this money to a charity of your choice, the IRS won't hit you up for this money that was yours in the first place, you poor schlub.
All right.
So it was a huge incentive for these defendants to pay a third party. And these third parties often had nothing to do with the lawsuit. So when companies like J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, or Citigroup had to pay settlements based on mortgage lending practices, the DOJ unintentionally directed millions of dollars to liberal activist groups.
Okay, now that's where
I don't think it was unintentionally.
I was just gonna say unintentionally. I don't think so.
I think he misspoke there, truth be told. They intentionally did this because there was a select group of these recipients. Go ahead, Harry, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
So you don't have to take my word for it. Here's an email from the Office of the Associate Attorney General in 2013 talking about the DOJ's settlement with J.P. Morgan. Quote, can you explain to Tony the best way to allocate some money toward an organization of our choosing? Those are the key words there, of our choosing. But let me continue to quote. We have been discussing having the agreement provide that JPM agreed to pay $9 billion, but that if by the time we sign the settlement agreement, JPM has given $60 million to X, they will have to pay only $8 billion.
So they were getting a discount out of the wrongdoers. They were offering them a discount for donating money to an organization of their choice. And that's not extortion.
Well, they say it was 60 million, so a $940 million discount.
Yes. $940 million discount to the financial wrongdoer to kick the money to somebody the Obama DOJ thought deserved the money. The organizations will make you smile when he gets around to mentioning them. Go ahead, Darren.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's okay. We understand that we would not have control over what X organization does with the money. To Tony, referred to there is Tony West, an Associate Attorney General who was at that time number 3 in the Department of Justice.
The number
2 days
3
later,
person in the
The
Department of
Leadership
Justice.
Conference of Civil and
The number 3 person in the Department of Justice. And do remember what the Department of Justice is, boys and girls. The Department of Justice has the ability to fuck your life up so bad you won't remember your own name.
Human Rights wrote to the office of the Associate Attorney General to lobby on behalf of a group called Voice. The Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights includes the biggest activist arm of the political left, including the ACLU, Planned Parenthood, Big Labor, AFL-CIO, and the Teachers Union.
Really?
That was my favorite. Ding, 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 ding. What a big surprise that the teachers' unions would be right up the ass of the DOJ on this one, panting around and these.
Both feet
I got
in
stuck
the
on-
trough and ears back.
Oh, yeah. And the ACLU, which lost the plot ages ago.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just the ADL is sitting there banging their heads against their desks going, why didn't anybody offer us this?
All
And
right.
the
I got stuck on
SPLC,
Planned Parenthood.
can you imagine? Yeah, Planned Parenthood. Well, is anybody surprised about this after we
No.
watched how bailout money to the Kennedy Center was used, rolled right back to the DNC, and all those musicians discharged? There is your parallel to, and your proof that the Obama, I mean, yes, it's also part of the Clinton machine. These corrupt fuckers in the DNCCP doing this shit. Now, look, the GOP is there are probably some people in the GOP listening to this who are jealous because they've got their own corrupt fucks. But the Trump administration's Justice Department was not being run this way. Yet, if you listen to Chris Hayes or Chris Cuomo or Don Lemon or Keith Olbermann or any of these other in the punditry class on MSNBC and CNN, you would believe that they were literally robbing grandmas to give the money to Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, CNN made a lot of noise about guys like Mnuchin. So he's a rich guy in government. And I remember there was, I think it was a solar eclipse, and Mnuchin and his wife or girlfriend, or one of each, I don't know, they went to Fort Knox to see this event. So they literally went and stood on the roof of this thing. So they were standing on a huge pile of gold while watching this thing. And of course, he's a movie producer, financier, he's got tons and tons of money, right? So the narrative that was spun was basically, look at this. Steve Mnuchin, is using his ability as the government official to take his wife/girlfriend and go stand on top of a giant pile of gold to look at an eclipse. Look at this abuse of power. And I look at things like that and go, well, yeah, it's kind of annoying, but it's not this.
Yes.
It's not this kind of shit.
Yeah, they
Give me 100 Mnuchins instead of one of these third-tier top people DOJ asshats.
Yeah, that boils down to the janitor that has rooftop access that's able to, hey, there's actually a really nice view. Let me bring my girlfriend or wife up here and show her the view. Level of, well, you're using your position's power to go on a roof. The fuck?
Yeah, I don't care if they joined the 300-foot club up there. It's still it's nothing compared to this kind of crap.
300-foot club.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about giving a $940 million discount on a settlement with somebody that you're claiming is fundamentally corrupt. We'll leave aside the fact that I think most of the financial institutions were involved in this corruption because of the government in the first place, and their involvement in the mortgage banking industry, which they shouldn't have had in the first place. But
Bingo.
We'll back all the loans. Don't worry about it. Oh, the loans
we'll
are
force
falling
you.
through.
We're going to force you to write bad paper.
Yep, and then we'll
get mad when you figure out how to cheat that bad paper over onto somebody else's plate. It's yes, the banks were involved in cheating bad paper to somebody else's plate, and it left a lot of people holding the bag. But they would not have been doing that in the first place if the Clinton administration hadn't got the brilliant idea that everybody needed to own a home, whether they could afford one or not. And you always need to go back to the bad idea, the root of the bad idea. That there's corruption downstream from that isn't surprising, because nobody wanted to write the goddamn bad paper. Because you know who was going to pay for that? And we paid for it anyway? All the rest of us. Anybody else that doesn't need banking or financial transactions with credit cards and that kind of stuff.
Or who buys anything.
Or who buys a house.
Anything.
Or who buys a house. You know, we were going to get fucked. We got fucked. They fucked us. They fucked people downstream. Everybody fucked everybody. And the DOJ fucked the victims. This is lovely. This is really lovely.
What do you think about the fact that they have earned themselves a nice little case of inflation? That infection is going to be a lot harder to shake than COVID. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. What
The
vaccine?
Temporary, Skep.
No, that's the problem. Is that it's not temporary.
There's
And
no
Janet
vaccine.
Yellen said it was temporary.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
full of shit.
Janet Yellen knows so little about economics and real macroeconomics.
I think you could have ended with, she knows very little.
She knows so little about the macroeconomics of government. It's an embarrassment to have her in any kind of a position of authority. She literally is not capable of understanding the situation. Her brain is not in the game. I've watched her try and engage. I've seen the amount of effort she's capable of putting in, and she is not a bright woman. She is a burnout.
I don't think anybody wanted the job, because they probably just ended up with her when they got to the WEDS, because everybody with a brain turned the job down.
Anyway, so yeah, we have people in charge of something that is real complicated, acting like it's very simple, and their court jesters like Paul Krugman are sitting there telling them, yeah, it's okay.
And Robert Reich.
Robert Reich, who's not really an economist, if you look closely, he's not really an economist at all.
Nice.
No, he served in the National Economic Council. That's a political position. That's not an economist job.
Well, it can be an economist job. It sort of depends on who.
Not in the Obama administration.
Yeah, by the time the
or the Clintons
were there, it was largely ceremonial.
Yeah, I mean,
reward, and the real work was being done by other people.
They weren't hiring Stephen, what's his face, the guy that they actually chased out of they were trying to put in one of the positions in the Trump administration. What the hell was his name?
Mnuchin or
no. Oh God, really earnest guy. Used to be on Greta Van Susteren a lot, going over economic.
Stephen, is his last name Moore?
Yes.
Yeah, Stephen Moore.
Yeah, Stephen Moore actually knows something about economics.
Yeah, he does.
And is actually a pretty affable fellow. They turned him into the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And I mean, he really is kind of just a nice guy who knows about economics.
It's so funny to hear the Twitterati talk him down.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you just hate that Stephen Moore? Yeah, he doesn't know anything. tweets a woman who knows absolutely nothing about economics.
Well, it's the way people treat Thomas Sowell.
Oh yeah.
They're confused by him because they don't understand him because he's that much more intelligent than they.
They don't realize how sophisticated he is, Prospero.
No, because he makes highly complex economic issues
accessible
to people. Yeah. If you look at the, go ahead and take a look at Kindle guys, at the number of pages in Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics. Look at the number of pages, and you'll realize how accessible Thomas Sowell makes this stuff. Because there are so many people who could have written a book called Basic Economics, and made it the size of the Los Angeles telephone book twice over.
Samuelson on economics, everybody's first.
God, yeah.
Everybody's first cut at economics was a fucking tome.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a paper
mostly full of useless crap too.
It's a cinder block of a book, and Sowell can break down because he's very good at analogizing.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the corruption of the DOJ.
Yes, please.
On number 3 here, but when the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights contacted the DOJ, it was because Voice wanted funds from the J.P. Morgan settlement. Not surprisingly, Voice ended up receiving $1 million from J.P. Morgan.
Like magic.
They have a listening ear
Just $1 million.
in the Obama administration. And here's what a DOJ lawyer wrote to Tony West's deputy about DOJ's settlement with Citigroup. Chart 4. They were concerned with the possibility of Citi picking a group like, quote, the Pacific Legal Foundation, which is a conservative property, free rights, legal services. The DOJ was clear. Conservative groups couldn't have the access to the same funds that liberal groups could. It was obvious.
Are any of you surprised by this?
No.
Nope.
Of course not, because we already know what the IRS policy was toward conservative 501c3s.
Oh yeah. Go after them.
The thing that I'm slightly curious about is, what are you willing to bet that if we look at the donations by these organizations to the DNC, that a rather shocking percent of the money probably ended up getting funneled back?
Oh,
I think
goodness.
Prospero's way ahead of you there, Sanguine.
You mean like the Kennedy Center?
Oh.
Yep, I know the
Yeah,
Kennedy Center example. That was one that I
Well, they
really
were
loved harping on.
guaranteed to get the money back if you
Yep.
look at who made up the organizations involved in Voice. Because between the ACLU, the AFL-CIO, and the teachers union, they were going to get every dime of that million back.
Mm-hmm.
Plus some. Because, I mean, these guys have it dialed in better than the folks using modern art to launder drug money. I mean, they had a lot of modern art trade, Jenna, is
It's cash business.
it's cash business money laundering.
And so
Yeah.
they use
Oh,
to
okay.
launder money.
I hear
And
Hunter Biden's become quite the successful artist too.
It
large-
turns out he has a remarkable, very subtle talent that has
Yeah.
just emerged, and he's doing some of the most important work, evidently based on the price of his compositions in the 21st century.
But I understand he's not fond of the color yellow.
Mm.
Might
yep,
be the new
I saw
Banksy.
that as well, which
Yeah.
I find that fucking hilarious. For those who haven't seen it, there's a conversation that was disseminated. It was Hunter Biden and I think it was his cousin, wasn't it, Prospero?
Uh-huh. His cousin
That-
was cheering for him.
Yep. And it was the New York Post, and I think a couple other people have picked up the story of these communications that they're going back and forth in, and it's Hunter Biden uses the term yellow to refer to Asians. When you actually read the entire thing, yeah, he does that. The more important thing is he's talking about human trafficking, effectively. It was procuring prostitutes and human trafficking.
Yay!
Good times.
But apparently the shocking thing in those text messages was the fact that he used yellow to refer to Asians.
Well, what about his whole saying writing the N-word the way that, well, just in text messages to some whore, and no one mentioned, if someone said it, if a conservative said it 30 years ago, they're canceled. He writes it in a text, and it's, oh, he was just talking the girl's language.
You don't understand the soul of an artist, Jenna. That's the problem.
You have to remember Democrat political privilege. They will torch people for the smallest thing, but, they murdered someone? Whoopsie, mistakes happen.
The whole thing about the no yellow, though, the whole conversation was the fact that a female cousin of his was busy basically acting as a purist for him.
Yeah.
But this is like, if you imagined Ghislaine Maxwell working as a procuress at the Chicken Farmer Consortium in Delaware. I mean, that was just some seriously low rent, what we used to call low rent trailer trash goings on. That was going. It's the same small scale vulgar corruption, but seriously low rent. I mean, that whole conversation. Oh, I'll take an Eastern European, but no yellow. I mean, honest to God.
Can I read what Addie wrote in chat?
It certainly.
He wrote, he's a Biden. It's not racism. It's a stutter.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, anyway, that's about Biden and their interest in art.
Sorry for bringing that up.
No.
Shall I hit play?
Please, we'll discuss her fascination with the color wheel some other time.
Yes.
The result. Chart number 5. From Bank of America alone, the National Council of La Raza, now known as UNIDOS, U.S., received $1.5 million.
I'm stunned.
Urban League received $1.2 million.
The Urban League never.
Another $1 million. On top of the first million. This won't shock you, but both La Raza and the Urban League were big supporters of President Obama's agenda.
Hadn't noticed.
They're also both members of the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights and Human Civil Rights today. La Rosa
goodness gracious.
Consistently lobbied Congress to pass President.
Yeah, he can't say La Raza worth a damn.
Well, honey, he is just a committed North Alabamian. So he's going to say Buenos Dias. Como estas usted? Muy bien, gracias. It's just, it's like listening to certain committed Bostonians trying to speak Spanish. Nosotros hablamos.
Or favor much grass, yes.
Yeah, yes, favor much grass. Yeah,
no English,
Poor right, Tommy. But anyway, they're big supporters of Obama. I'm sure they were big donators too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure they were. I'm sure, like I said, it takes a strong foundation.
President Obama's misguided immigration reform bill The Urban League was a routine cheerleader of the Obama administration's big government approach to public housing.
Oh,
They
no,
were
really.
rewarded for their advocacy with millions of dollars from the DOJ. In total, across the federal government, the money directed to third parties added up to a total of $668 million, according to the Nonpartisan Regulatory Transparency Project.
I
Yeah.
think that's the gist of it.
Oh, no, there's just one little bit.
Okay.
There's that
Part number 6.
668 million.
Out of the 668 million, that could be on that at the end of the day could only locate 9.5 million, which is 1.4% of the total money given. We don't even know exactly where or how the rest of the money was spent.
Probably on a pallet going to Iran.
Folks, I got one word for you on that.
Just
It's called
joking.
corruption.
Yeah,
This is the swamp.
that is
We
the
kid, we
gist.
The
kid.
fact that this practice ever existed should make Americans' blood boil. Political appointees at one of the most powerful departments in the country use their position of power to extract money from corporate companies, and then they gave that money to their like-minded friends.
Corporates. Yeah, what Tuberville goes on to say, because I think we can stop there. One, they can't even account for the fucking money. That's no surprise. They can't account for any of the money most of the time, but it's a pittance that they can account for. And to bring it home one more time, that was money that belonged in the pockets of victims of financial crimes. That did not belong in the pockets of political operatives. It did not belong being washed through their organizations and ending up.
Why didn't it deserve to? Why didn't the people who got screwed the first time? Why didn't they deserve to get screwed a second time?
I guess.
I kind of like the symmetry.
Well, yeah. If you're into, as Harry referred to it, the push me, pull you.
Yes.
Of getting screwed. Swallow this now. Take this up the. It's. So Tuberville's introducing legislation to make permanent the Trump ban on this practice, because, as he argues,
Which is why it has no chance.
When it comes to the financial operations of the federal government, the Congress are the ones that are supposed to be holding the purse strings, not the
President?
independent little hives of unaccountable bureaucrats within these large federal agencies. Well, it'll be interesting to at least point out who does and who does not support this legislation. I don't expect the Democrats to be very enthusiastic. There might even be some Republicans who push back because they're thinking, how can we do this ourselves? Not that they would, because they always get caught and go to jail, if you notice. Or at least get perp walked and blamed for all kinds of hideous things in the scalp taking that is known as politics. But isn't it charming to know that not only was the DOJ busy lying to the FISA court, making tarmac deals with the husband of a presidential candidate regarding the disposition of her unbelievable security lapses with secrets. Didn't say top secret on it.
We were just touching up for a half hour on a
Wipe
tarmac.
it like with a cloth.
Yeah, that was pretty terrible. I really can't handle that woman. I didn't think they were so bad originally because I wasn't paying close attention. It was fairly easy to reach a point where I just kind of got jaded and just assumed that all politicians were terrible. And then I think the first thing that woke me up was listening to Christopher Hitchens talk about the Clintons. I'm like, man, this man has a serious hate boner for the Clintons. And
A well documented and well justified hate boner.
a well documented and well justified hate boner. And then you get to the point where she's sitting there with that look on her face, talking about those emails and wiping a server with that cloth. I told my my liberal friends, my progressive friends, excuse me. Well, they're a little bit of both. I just said, look, I'm never voting for this woman. You know, I mean, unless my only other choice is Bernie Sanders, I'm done. I don't care what you say about why I should vote for her. I'm not voting for her after that little stunt. You know, come on, man. And it's like, no. The level of contempt that she has for everybody who isn't her is so unfathomably large.
It really is.
Well,
Just go fuck yourself is basically my feelings on her.
That's when you have a sociopath in a position of power.
You know, and it's really easy to be cynical about a lot of her PR. You know, the bottle of hot sauce in the purse, her trying to pretend to be a regular person with drinking Crown Royal. She just is not that good an actress. I'm sorry, Jenna, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say what got me was when she said, what does it even matter about Libya?
Yes.
We saw
that.
What was it?
That pissed me off because military died.
I've got that whole meme.
We saw, he died.
Yeah, and which is a play on Vini Vidi Vici. You know, which is we came, we saw, we conquered, which was an old Roman saying.
I can't.
Because they were tired of winning at a certain point, and it started to show around 400 AD. But yeah, the Clintons are just contemptible. They're just not.
That's not contestable. They're contemptible.
They yeah. I'm sorry, I was just tripping over my own tongue.
Yeah. Well, he caught it from me.
Yeah. So what do we want to do now? Now that we're all depressed.
Referencing Rome just made me remember something that I thought of on my way home from work one day. And I'm not sure if it's as interesting to everyone else as it is to me. So I'll throw out the topic and see if anyone's willing to bite. How fucking weird the Western world since about World War I has been when it comes to war. Because there's a bunch of things that I've heard people say that I don't get why they say them when it comes to, for instance, it was only a matter of time before colonialism died off. Really? Because when you look at historic empires, the thing that really governed the size of historic empires were their ability to transport goods and information from one extreme to another, the ability to communicate, which is much the same as the first, and their ability to get troops, which again relies on the first.
All right.
Whereas, go ahead.
All right, I can answer this very in
short order,
in two steps. Comparing the British Empire, and it's inevitable because yes, it was collapsed, to the Roman Empire is a fool's errand. The hinterlands were productive, and Rome wasn't really spending that much money defending them or caring for them. Mm-hmm. The British were spending vast amounts of resources looking after their territories. The cost analysis was just not going to pan out. Mostly because the British Empire was doing all the giving and very little of the taking after a certain point. The other is the world had already begun to shrink.
See, that's the thing that I was going to say. I could understand saying
communication had made it such.
English Empire, the British Empire, would invariably collapse. But the idea that colonialism as a whole its days were numbered. Now it seems like it would be far easier to control land. And that's also the reason why I find it so weird that so many people seem to believe that wars of conquest are also just something that they were obviously going to be a thing of the past. No! What the fuck makes anyone think that they would obviously become a thing of the past?
I mean, if you're talking about after World War One, when the sea change occurs, or are you talking about in the period after World War One, which would include the end of World War Two?
I'm saying from about the end of World War One, there was some exceptions, and then definitely after World War Two.
Oh, after World War II, it's simply because we had embraced the Wilsonian notion of the League of Nations. So it was going to be utterly impossible to do the War of Conquest because we had entered into treaty alliances to prevent that.
Which is the part that I was saying is really fucking weird about how the West does war.
Well, also
because
the United States became a major hegemonic power.
Yes!
And because we have eschewed colonialism, remember the main aside, and went for economic colonialism, as people like to refer to it. Imperialism was never our thing. We never wore the robes particularly comfortably, which is good. We were involved in... whenever they refer to the Vietnamese War as an imperialistic war, it makes my back teeth itch.
Yep.
Because I don't view it as such. If the French had been fighting the war, yeah, then it would have meant. But
I surrender.
Well, yeah, but my point being French Indochine. If they had been the ones doing the fighting, then it would have been an imperialist war. But the imperialists involved in that war were the communist Chinese, and the Russians. But Sanguine, that was the value of colonialism as a 17th through 19th century idea was it was losing moral stock as well as financial stock rather significantly. So it was coming to an end because financially it was much more difficult to carry out. And there's a moral component to it as well.
Yeah,
there's the notion that you don't have the right to other people's shit. And
that's exactly what I was thinking about as I was coming home, because, like I said, it started with it's weird how the West does war, and then it's weird that people say that colonialism had its days limited. No, the only reason why those could be considered to be at all accurate is because of the two major superpowers that were kind of leading the West at the time, those being the US and England.
Yeah, but remember that the Enlightenment values that really began to affect the West, and particularly the United States, it did include the notion of property. And your ability to just simply waltz in and say, hello, I have a flag. Do you? And take other people's property became a bit of a moral dilemma for people who wanted to stand by the sanctity of property rights within their own sovereign state. So, recognition of individual sovereignty, getting rid of slavery, as much as could be done, or at least getting rid of Western participation in slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Still is happening in other countries, by the way, people, so don't blame us.
Well, no, of course it is, because it is very much a Western idea that slavery is immoral.
Though that one I have an easier time believing that, yeah, the days of slavery are numbered due to tech advancement. Because slavery is a less effective version of tech advancement.
But yeah, it is, but there was also a strong moral component.
There was, which sped the process along.
Yeah, the tech advancement was lagging behind the moral argument.
Yep.
Wilberforce predates the farming revolution.
Yep, which I would say was something that sped it along. I'm not saying that the point at which it ended was its days are numbered point.
The economic practicality of it was wearing off. At the same time, the moral argument was gaining strength.
Yep.
So you were reaching a nexus of no, we're not
many
doing
people own slaves.
Correct.
In the first place, they were kind of a luxury item by the time we got around to fighting the Civil War about it. The ownership of slaves was down. People also don't realize that even after Juneteenth, for example, when the Texas slaves got the word that they were emancipated, there were still slaves working in places like Delaware and Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And they stayed enslaved for another year.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Pennsylvania or was it New Jersey? I guess it doesn't matter. It
doesn't matter.
Delaware was one of the states.
Delaware was one, and it was one of those other unimportant states up in the upper right-hand part of the country.
But the thing that bothers me about the idea that, oh yeah, colonialism, its days were numbered. Well, that's only because of who was doing it and who the major powers were.
Well, yeah,
towards the end.
Right. I mean, the world was shrinking. And the competition was going to get really cutthroat. And if we wanted to reduce conflagrations like World War I, which was, oh my God, I mean, it made the Malthusians happy.
Yeah, yes, it would.
But beyond that, it accomplished fuck all.
Yeah.
Except scuppering the Berlin to Baghdad Railway and Germany's notions of becoming a major colonial power.
Economically, they just made things so bad for Germany that
Germany was
going to resolve itself some other way.
Well, Germany was so fucking late to the dance. Okay, this is the peculiar thing about Germany. There's a fair bit of jealousy that drives a lot of the Kaiser's decisions. Kaiser Wilhelm had a bunch of cousins who controlled a lot of land and controlled a lot of people and controlled a lot of wealth. And he was stuck in a pea pod in the middle of them. And by comparison to the British Empire and the size of the Tsar, his cousins' territories. And I mean, Germany doesn't unify until late 19th century. I mean, it's the 1860s. And then they decide to get into the business of colonialism, which is very, very late to the dance.
By the way, they're getting together. That's politically when we recognize it. But there was actually a lot of inertia. There was a lot of resistance to Germany becoming one country.
Oh, yeah. And with good reason, it turns out, in retrospect. It's
a little bit of a Franken country.
It is.
With a Franken language.
Yeah, it's not a Frankish, well, yes, frankly speaking. The great confusion, the Gallic language and the Frankish language.
Right.
So my kids had to watch
Your kids had what?
My kids had to watch a documentary on Wilhelm, whatever his name is. I watched it with him.
Wilhelm?
Yeah.
Kaiser Wilhelm? Mm-hmm.
They tortured that child because he was born where the muscles in his arm didn't work from the way he was delivered, and they would put a dead rabbit. They'd kill a rabbit and then attach it to his arm to try to bring back the
musculature.
Yeah, and then they had his
That's what I did
neck.
with my kids.
His neck was leaning to one side because he couldn't hold it up correctly. So they put him in this thing where there was a nail in the back of his head to keep it straight, and then this contraption all the way down him. I would have become a murderous psychopath.
Have you ever
too.
seen kids in back braces to correct severe scoliosis?
Yes, but
Okay, we didn't have those then, Jenna. That was the rudimentary beginnings of, and yeah, that was it. But that wasn't really what. I mean, yeah, it was kind of sad what happened
Yeah,
to him,
well,
and I'm sure it made him a little cranky. But
Cranky. Guys are both cranky.
yeah, I think he was predisposed to being cranky. He comes from a family of cranky people.
I was going to say kind of a
he
cranky
does.
family.
And,
I mean,
but it's like
Victoria had too many fucking kids. Let's just put it that way. It's for world peace.
Germans like sex.
If they were going to get if they were going to get jealous of their cousins, she had too many kids.
Yeah.
She didn't have too many kids. She was happily married, and she enjoyed having children too. It seems until her husband died, and she got sad and kind of bitter.
and wore black until she was buried and was white and wasn't embalmed. She didn't want to be embalmed.
Don't blame her. That's actually rather enlightened of her. Victoria was a remarkable woman. Remarkable woman.
Especially when you compare her to someone like Hillary Clinton. You know, these are people.
She was smarter than
for
Hillary,
whatever
too, I think.
reason, history has thrust, important things into their path, important times, important responsibilities. There's an example of someone who served her country admirably, did really a fine job for my money as a queen, particularly compared to some of the other winners the British Crown has had. And you compare that with Hillary Clinton, who is an utterly self-serving, self-loathing, awful person who cares nothing about what happens to anybody else as long as
Hillary Clinton is
her designs go forward.
Is Edward VII in this story?
Yeah, she is kind of Edward VII. It's not bad.
Yeah, because he was a bit of a arsehole. I mean, it doesn't.
Just a my way of the highway guy.
Yeah, George V, for me personally, probably a little bit difficult. I know he was rather unpleasant to Bertie.
Yeah.
But as a monarch, was extremely effective. And very bright. He was a good bit like his grandmother. But
he married badly.
Mary of Tech, yeah.
He married badly.
I said Mary of Tech. Yes.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Yeah, apparently she was a stone cold bitch.
Yeah.
No wonder Edward married Wallace Simpson. He fell in love with Mom. No, they're.
I
blueprint.
agree.
One's a blueprint for the other.
Yeah, they're not dissimilar, and it's kind of tragic because.
What it meant for the British people.
Well, yes, because Edward VIII was beloved by the British people, and he had quite the common touch. He was he could have been an outstanding monarch, but he let his dick do his thinking, and that was the end of him. That was the end of him. Yeah. Amen to what Addie says. Thank God for the current queen. May she outlive her son. Elizabeth II is a remarkable monarch, and provided that historians are still around and not forced to write utter bullshit in 200 years.
History will remember her fondly.
History will remember her as a remarkable monarch.
Yeah.
Someone who learned from her remarkable father. Her
Yep.
father and mother were, crisis can give you the people you need, or it can give you the worst people. And England got so incredibly lucky because Bertie was ill-suited to be king. Genuinely ill-suited, temperamentally, by all standing compared to his brother. Yet, when the chips were down and the shit hit the fan, and it didn't just hit it slightly, it hit it on full. He and his remarkable wife, the Elizabeth Queen Consort, was a outstanding human being, and they've raised an outstanding daughter. And
The other one sucked.
I don't think so. I don't think that poorly
James's
of
words, not mine.
I don't think that poorly of her. It's very difficult to be the other child in a scenario like that.
Yeah.
And genuinely the beautiful one. I mean, not that Queen Elizabeth is unattractive. She was an adorable young girl, but she didn't have Margaret's beauty. Margaret was a striking woman, particularly for that family.
I was just going to say that's not coming out of the greatest gene pool.
Well, Elizabeth Boswell-Lyons was an attractive girl. She brought some good
genes to the party.
Good genes to the party, which was nice, and I'm hoping very much that that's going to be the case with the grand generation of Elizabeth II.
We can hope so.
Yeah, William doesn't seem to be quite the git his father is. It seems that Harry takes after his daddy more.
Harry's an asshole.
His real one or his alleged?
Yeah, his
No,
the man that has raised him as his child, Charles.
Yeah,
He is actually his father.
Okay, whatever. I don't care. I don't care.
I thought it was Castro.
These people. No, that's Justine.
I know.
The man who would be she.
Harry has done a 180 in the last Meghan years.
Harry was a decent young boy, but I'm sorry, but crazy runs in the family too.
Yeah.
Diana
why Justine was standing that way at the G7. Remember, he was making
clutching his hands,
dancing boy.
It's because he got a bad tuck job that morning. So he had to kind of put the legs out a little bit, just because the edge of the tape was kind of chafing against his thigh.
Aw, poor dude.
Poor Justine.
Poor Justine, clutching his hands because the G-string wasn't fitting right that day. God, what an asshole! Shit.
Well, so the picture of the G7. The 95-year-old queen is more with it. Actually doesn't seem to have any issues compared to somebody 17 years younger than him who's a blithering idiot.
Yeah. Elizabeth is sharp as a tack. I don't know if anybody saw the film of the Australian prime minister meeting with Elizabeth, but he told her in this little photo op that he said, you made quite an impression on everyone yesterday. You were the talk of dinner last night. And she said, oh, Lord, really? And it was almost like, oh, goodness gracious, why? Elizabeth appears to be bearing up under the loss of Philip rather well.
In a way,
she's always known how to keep her chin up.
And as a proper memoriam, don't stay here too long, lads, or else you'll get all slitty-eyed.
Thank you. Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, also,
She
I
would
think
never show any stress in public, I don't believe.
No. She's just she
Maintaining
was
even strain.
the she knows that she works for the company.
Yes.
Her mother was spot on about
Company girl,
how
oh boy. Yeah.
how one does appearances in public and how one carries oneself always in the public eye. That it did not mean that one did not have a private life. It's just that one kept one's private life private.
Right.
How remarkable an idea. That used to be how most people carried on their lives. I mean, granted, we would trot the crazy aunt out at the holidays and just give her her head because everybody needs to blow off steam. But by and large, nobody showed their ass in public. Ever. And I mean, that was from peon to the... It was actually the elites that began showing their asses because they thought that was being avant-garde. And then the peons decided to copy them. You think about how Hollywood people started just living their lives out in the open with all the hedonism on display for everyone to see. And what a horrible impact that had on the behavior of people in Paducah. They started emulating them. No one spoke
Hey, if
about
they
their
can do that, we can do that.
No one spoke of their sex life in public. Nobody spoke about their personal finances in public. Nobody talked about themselves to the exclusion of others in public.
Exactly.
Ever.
Or just the public displays of emotion were nothing like what they are now. It was considered to be modest and correct to be a little bit, not forthcoming emotionally in public.
The British in particular, aloofness was always their self-defense. If you live on an island and everybody's just emoting all over everyone else, you're going to end up with a chaotic society.
Yeah.
And when you live in jam-packed places like New York City, and everybody's just emoting openly, people pick up stressors from free radical emotion floating out there, and it's toxic.
The free radical emotion, yeah.
This is why the airing of the grievances is the best part of Festivus. Just get it out of the way once a year.
Yes. It's like the Peruvians who beat the shit out of each other. You know, they have the giant fist fight. And it's like, that looks like a brilliant idea. Just go out there and wail on people. I'm sick to death of looking at your stupid fake flowers on your back porch, Manuel. Bam! You know, it's just all the things that chap our asses, just get them out of the way. But, you know, the vulgarity of public display was just that. It was considered vulgar. Now, somewhere between that and where we live now, I think, is the healthier place. But psychologists really have sold people a bill of goods about how interested we actually are in the emotional state of our neighbor. I'm not. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah, I don't.
But unless
care
they're a
about
friend of
people's,
mine.
Yeah, I don't care about their emotional state. I don't care about what they do with their genitals. I don't care about a whole bunch of things. I remember as a kid people saying you have to be tolerant, and I sort of made this deal with the world. I said, "Is indifference close enough?"
Yes.
Will that get me through?
Harry makes a get acquainted offer to the world.
It's like, I don't know if I can do tolerant, but I can at least get to the point where I don't care. Is that adequate?
That fly. Yeah.
Well, that's
why I only
it.
have 3 neighbors.
Well, yeah. And I mean, the thing is that I care deeply about my friends. And they can emote all over me because I have, by offering them my ear, like this is some great gift, and I sound like the beneficent and wise and wonderful Prospero. Hi, I am your friend. You are now allowed to tell me things. But that is kind of the bargain we make in friendship. I am your friend. That's nice. What are the rules of our friendship? We establish these things. We have acquaintances. We have friends. We have close friends. And close friends are invited to cry on my shoulder. Randos in the grocery store are not. I could not possibly care less in a situation like that. I don't know the person. There's nothing I can do to help. And I don't want to know about it. La 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 la.
And writing it down in your journal and showing it to me is not going to help.
Oh, Christ, please don't share.
Why would someone share their journal?
Oh my God. I actually spent this is a long time ago, an airplane trip, sitting next to a woman who was writing she would write something down, then she would speak the words that she just wrote down, and then she would show them to me with this kind of conspiratorial leer, and then go back to writing more things. And I went from Oakland to Dallas.
I'm sorry.
Listening to that. Yeah,
Wow.
it's interesting.
3 hours of hell.
That takes away one of your sins when you die, having to deal with that.
Good God.
Not worth it.
And that should expiate way more than just one.
I actually ended up feeling
Okay.
really bad for her because she was obviously, having a problem.
Yeah. And I mean, you do, but they invite, I mean, please don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean like I don't want friends, but that's not a way to start a friendship. That's a way to start a restraining order.
Yeah.
Sounds like you people haven't had to deal with Father Confessor face.
Yeah, well, yes, I have. Because people will pick the weirdest and most awkward situations in the world to overshare. There are assumptions made in workplaces now that everybody that works together are going to be friends.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just work here. I only had a few jobs from which to choose. I have millions of people from which to choose friends. Did I tell you I had chosen you? Get out of my office. It's the minute someone assumes that because I am pleasant to them, that means I want to hear about their abortions. They made a grievous error. And I just, number one, I don't know what to do in a situation like that other than scream and run away.
I have to repeat a story that I've told, and it's one of
Please.
my favorite stories in the whole world. So I have to do some careful editing so as not to dox myself. But this was many years ago. Somebody, a very important person in the world of tech, was on vacation in Hawaii. He was on a beach enjoying his vacation in Hawaii. And one of the people that worked for him, an underling, just to, several layers down in the org chart, spotted this guy on the beach. And he walked up to the boss and said, "Hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm Fred Furbo." Well, obviously wasn't his real name, but I'm Fred Furbo. And the guy just kind of looked at him. The boss just kind of looked at him and sort of ignored him at first. He said, "Oh, yeah, we work together. I'm Fred Furbo." And the boss turned and looked at him and said, and I quote, "I come to places like this to get away from people like you." He went back to what he was doing. The guy walked away.
That's glorious. I come to places like this to get away from people like you.
There's no easy way to say this, but
Go away.
Get out of my face.
Yeah, and it's just this. if you don't have close friends, number one, I'm sorry. I'd advise a tiny bit of introspection in this, and ask yourself why you don't. And then
Is
realize,
there a possibility it might be you?
And then don't assume on acquaintances in the hope of cultivating friendship, because friendship needs to be reciprocal, and assuming
Spontaneous.
People, that people might want to hear about how in 3rd grade your dad wouldn't get you the bicycle you wanted, but got you the discount one from Sears, and that it damaged you. This could be why you don't have friends. If they walk away from you in the break room, and they just got there, that could be the sharing part. Save your money and hire a therapist.
People don't understand what friendship really is. Now, it may be different for different people, and I do think there are differences between men and women, hashtag not all.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes, there are two things that you kind of have to get right. One, you have to be absolutely trustworthy with your friends. Your friends need to, above all else, know they can trust you. And the other thing is you have to be generous with your friends. That doesn't mean buying their affection. It means being generous of yourself with your time.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can't do those two things, none of the other stuff will make any difference. Those are just acquaintances or people who are convenient to have around.
Right.
When you know that
well said.
I don't know about you, but I will confess to realizing that some people are going to be a time sink. Upon meeting them, and kind of putting them in the forever acquaintance category, because of sensing immediately.
Do you kind of write yourself a note at that moment to say, be careful, don't ever get too close to these people, because they will take all of your life away from you.
Suck the energy right out of you.
Right.
You might get a case of the SADS.
Yes.
Yeah, but there are people who will, the immediate assuming or the oversharing right off is a giant warning sign.
Oh, sure.
To me, it's like run far.
But they're
away.
They're coming to you, and they're basically demanding something of you. This is the part about being generous. Being generous with your time also means being respectful of the other person's time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say, "Oh, we're friends," and then start saying that means that I can prevail upon you for things. That's not something that you just do immediately, at least. And I think that a lot of friendships, because of the way the internet is structured, have become very superficial. Mm-hmm. I mean, people who I know online, who I consider my friends, are the ones who know things like, my actual name and know where I've worked and stuff. I mean, when somebody's like a closer friend, they know stuff about me.
Wait,
because I trust them. That's very important. Hey, I sent you a hat. You know my name too. Cut it out.
But
also you kind of have a system where you repay when someone is generous with their time or does you a massive favor. You kind of have to have a system of, okay, this is how I'm going to show that I was thankful for this.
Yes.
Like, I remember before Minions started, I was a nighttime concierge at one job. I was an EMT at the other. My best friend, I just recommended him as a nighttime concierge for the same company that I was working for, got him trained up, all that shit, and he was meant to be the afternoon to evening person. one shift. So I'm clocking out after like a 16 or 18-hour day in EMS. And my best friend texts me and goes, hey, is there any chance that I could ask you for a favor? And I went, shit, okay, what is it? The person who was supposed to be working nights that night was a no-call, no-show.
I hate
He was dead on his feet because he was also working 2 jobs at the time. And he needed something to keep him awake. So I'm just clocked out. I'm equidistant from where he is and home. And if I drove to where he is, both of us knew I wouldn't be getting sleep for like an hour plus. Depending on traffic, maybe 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to clock in the next morning. But best friend needs help. He got screwed through no fault of his own. Fuck, okay. Give me a bit. I'll get you a large coffee, get it to you, and then I'm going home and passing the fuck out. Thanked me, went, got him the coffee, took it over to him, and then a fair bit after that, we were hanging out. We went out for a couple drinks, and he decided he got me a coffee that time when I was fucked.
Yeah.
You aren't paying for your drinks. Not going to allow you to pay for your drinks. They're all on me. Which was his... Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's... It's like the host and hostess gifts
Yep.
that people would bring one another. It's a recognition of kindness, sometimes paid in advance, sometimes paid after the fact. And the fact that had you been in a similar situation, you could have said, hey, dude, same shit just happened to me has happened to you. He'd be, got it.
Mm-hmm.
What size coffee do you want?
Yep.
And are you going to need a nosh, or are you afraid that's going to put you to sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's people will sacrifice time and sleep to hold the heads of people that need help, that matter to them, and they matter to you because people show that reciprocity, and over time, you know that you can rely on them. Mm-hmm. There is nothing nicer in the world than knowing that you can drop in unannounced on someone when your entire world has just caved in around you.
And having that system where you always make sure that you repay, not by money, because it's almost never about money. It's just having some system of, man, fucking thank you.
Yeah.
Is how you keep people from being burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone's probably had that person that they were friends with, and their friend asked them for a favor, so they went out and did the favor for their friend, and then their friend asked them for a favor, and they helped their friend, and their friend asked them for a favor, and they helped their friend, and then
ever onward.
Eventually reached a point where they needed a favor, and they asked their friend, and their friend went, I don't have time for that. And they stopped being friends.
Yes.
Oh, I have a story for you after stream.
Yep.
Yeah, there are moments, we've all encountered somebody like that who kind of catches us by surprise. You think a relationship of long standing is something and you very jarringly discover it ceased being that. And that can put you in an interesting place of introspection and worry, and then just acceptance that's over with. So on these notes of friendship advice and personal anecdotes, we have been your minions for another 2 hours. I almost said
that went
weeks.
fast.
Yeah, time goes by quickly. I'm going to take a moment or two here at the end of the stream before we do parting thoughts to let you all know something. Next week will be my last stream as regular keeper on Thursday nights. I have a lot of things going on in my life, trying to clean out a house of 40 years occupancy and 4,000 years of archaeology is taking a fair bit of energy and bandwidth, as people like to say now, particularly psychological bandwidth. And I don't want to misuse my friends who come on stream with me, and I don't want to misuse those of you who have been kind enough to be here week after week after week and chat. To whom I cannot even express to both groups, particularly my friends who give time out of their very busy lives to come on and hang with me, regardless of my mood or energy. They've never outed me as the absolute bitch I can be off stream in certain cases like that. I am not absenting myself from minion streams. It's just the duties as keeper require more time and more consideration than being a guest. I hate to make it sound that simple a calculus, but that is the case. But I'll still be around, and I'm certain you very well may see me in the host chair again at some time, either filling in for someone, backing up, whatever. It's been a distinct pleasure for me to have been offered the opportunity to keep, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and I don't want to dislike doing it, which is now why, with time constraints, I feel it's very important that I step back before I can't give both my friends and chat my best efforts. So with that little announcement, let me take it around the horn for parting thoughts, and I'll start with Jenna.
Why does everyone start with me?
Okay, I'll start with Sanguine.
I'll just leave off because we were talking about friends and making sure that you reciprocate kindness. Be kind to yourself and be kind to the people around you. Life will become a lot more enjoyable if you are.
Yes, very, very much true. Jenna, are you prepared now?
I kept my baby alive for an entire month. Woohoo.
Well done.
That makes it sound like it was just a month.
Well, he's a month today.
A month and counting would be.
Hey, that first month is terrifying.
I get that. Just, I kept him alive for a month. The second month, bit more difficult.
Okay, my baby is still alive a month later. Is that
There we
better?
go. Yes.
Happy 1 month birthday to baby boy. Sweet, sweet little baby boy, glow in the dark child that he is. Harry, parting thoughts?
Yes. Oh gosh, I have so many thoughts. I just want to say, for the record, when I talk about stuff like my definitions for friendship, this is just sort of what I've had to, my thoughts about me. I'm not holding other people to the same standard. I'm just trying to think, well, what does it mean to me? And I came up, when I was first started thinking about this, I had a fairly easy litmus test. And it was, if I found out somebody was sick, would I at least go to the trouble to have a blood test done to see if I was a bone marrow candidate? I'm not saying I'm going to give them any of my bone marrow, but would I at least go through the pain and suffering of having some bone marrow collected so that they could, do the test and stuff? And if the answer to that is no, it's like, well, okay, this person's not my friend. That was like version 1 of the "what does it mean to be Harry's friend" thing that I think probably was something I thought up when I was in my late teens. I hope my thoughts on the matter are a little more evolved at this point.
I can't say I haven't had a similar thought or two. And then tried to tell myself that wouldn't you do that if a general call went out? And try to tell myself that I would.
Realistically, I know I wouldn't. I really, as much as I would like to be a really, really good person, I think that's probably too big an ask for me.
Yeah.
Darn it, I was just going to ask you.
Jenna, you're so bad.
No,
Skep,
no.
my friend, my wingman, who's been desperately trying to steer this vessel for the past 2+ years.
Well, I'm going to miss you as keeper. You add a lot to our rotation, and you add a lot of wisdom on the amongst the keepers. So I will miss you in that role. Hope it's not a permanent thing. You might come back at some point. We'll see what the future brings. But,
I hope so.
Something I was thinking about earlier today, actually, is that mistakes and hard times are underrated. We tend to think we want to avoid them at all costs, and we shouldn't. It's out of those times, it's out of the difficult times, it's out of the hard times, it's out of the mistakes that set you back, that lead to breakthroughs, that lead to the things that change you and show development on your part as a person. Try hard things that you may not even have a good chance at succeeding at. And sometimes you can learn as much from failures as you do from successes.
Absolutely.
Just leave you with that one tonight.
Very, very wise words. Very wise words indeed. Harry, you have tomorrow evening, do you not?
I do. We're going to do.
It's Friday.
It turns out that I actually can be on next Friday because it's for reasons, and so I was thinking it might be fun to put together another quiz game show episode. And
is this
Skep
tomorrow night?
This is tomorrow night, and Skep's
Tomorrow
going to be
night,
our scorekeeper.
Would love to.
I'm not allowed
So-
to play.
No, seals aren't allowed, or people from New Hampshire.
The
I'm sorry,
sea
Rhode Island.
lion. It's a
Or Rhode
fucking
Island.
sea lion.
But it's gonna be
Rhode
fun.
Island.
We had a hell of a good time last time, and I learned a lot about how not to do it. Certain things worked, certain things didn't. So I think we're gonna have a pretty darn good time tomorrow night. I know Inquisitor will be joining us, and a few of the Saturday regulars. The final list of people who are going to be on is not quite determined yet.
I was looking
But
forward
it's
to
gonna be
losing
fun.
again.
Well, I'm looking forward to you coming on and losing again.
Yay!
No, actually, we had some pretty strong. I mean, other than Skep, who's just sort of a trivia machine, we had a lot of really strong players last time, and I'm going to I think the fun quotient's going to be a little higher. I know I'm pretty confident we're going to have a good time. So please come and join us tomorrow.
Excellent.
Good.
That's going to be some fun.
So tune in tomorrow because we're going to have quiz show night, which is going to be a hoot. It really will be. Very much looking forward to it, and I am again very much looking forward to Saturday night when you do your regular stream of amazing news recap.
Thank you.
I learned all kinds of things from that, whether I am there or whether I am not.
That's a good show.
It's a good
It's
show.
a really good show. Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of help from people that are on there with me regularly. We actually gather stuff all week, and then my big contribution is just kind of looking through it and trying to figure out how to fit it all together. And we like to cover stuff that everybody else hasn't already talked about. Because there's just an awful lot of people talking about the same stuff and then just sort of saying, oh, here's the thing. That's stupid. They're dumb. And then, they go on to the next story. So we try to talk about stuff where we feel like we can actually add a little more than just reaction. Even if it's just sort of saying that this is related to this other thing or trying to provide some context. So anyway, it's all a work in progress. I've actually, how long have I been a keeper for?
It was last July 11th, according to Check Your Logic, that you did your quiz stream.
Yeah, so it hasn't been that long, and you were actually, Prospero is the person who basically was sort of my keeper when I was, sort of acting deputy trainee keeper. So,
Yeah, I was the squeaking set of training wheels for someone who hardly needed them. But it was a distinct pleasure just to spend more time with you. Alrighty, guys, we've been your minions. This has been your zoo, and please tune in tomorrow night for the quiz show. And with that, everybody, the zoo is closed. Thank you and good night.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
all.
The sea lion named Tyler.